Where does that energy come from? That energy to educate, that energy to really push through the importance for medicine, specifically elderly care?
Go on Instagram, and I was like, what is Instagram? Moreover, a lot of people don't even know what is geriatric medicine,
Yes.
what is geriatrics. They end up with 5 drugs from cardiologists, 3 drugs from the respiratory team, 3 drugs from someone else, and no one is putting it all together. Because of course, with population aging, our cancer population is aging too. Our surgical patients are getting older too. I hate the expression anti-aging.
So do I.
People in the past, they would retire and 5-10 years later, they are dead. Nowadays, people retire and they're still alive 30, 35, 40 years later.
What can we do to normalize and accept death as a society?
You don't use it, you lose it. I think there is another issue with us healthcare professionals, especially in the NHS, time.
I'm having feelings of jealousy almost. It's like, how do you get so long when we have like 15 minutes?
Back in my country, the average life expectancy is about 60 years. So geriatric medicine is non-existent. I've never heard of it. We never studied.
Love.
Welcome back to the Mindset series. Today, I have a very, very honorable guest with me, someone I've looked up to over the last few years, someone who inspires a lot of us on a daily basis. I have Dr. Elena Mucci, who is qualified both as a general internal medicine and geriatric medicine consultant. Her special interest is in comprehensive assessment for older adults. She has clinical interests in general medicine, stroke medicine, and dementia. She's a wife, a mother, a fitness fanatic, and avid dancer, and a notable figure on social media, informing and empowering others about good health. So without further ado, Elena, welcome.
Thank you so much, Veena, for having me. What an honor to see you face to face as well.
It's the first time we're meeting.
Absolutely.
This is like a lot of my list of friendships where you feel that connection because we talk on social media, you support each other's work, and then you see the person in real life and you're like, oh yeah, I know you. We know each other.
And also having this platform to share your experiences and empower people out there, women, men, medics, anyone.
No, absolutely honored to have you. Brilliant. So before we begin, I have to ask you, when we watch what you put out there for everyone to see, where does that energy come from? That energy to educate, that energy to really push through the importance for medicine, specifically elderly care. Where does that energy come from for you?
NHS is a huge organization. Every time I see a patient who had received suboptimal care before they met me, or maybe things could have been done better, but NHS is so busy, we just can't serve every patient, or the experiences might not be there. So every time I see a patient who hasn't received the amazing care the way I see it, I think of 1,000, maybe 10,000 more patients out there who are not receiving the care they should. Okay. So that empowers me and drives me to post, to teach, to educate people out there, families, medics, nurses, everyone. And the social media gave me that platform. In fact, it was my junior doctor, FY1, FY2 doctor, Caitlin, who told me 3 years I've been on Instagram now, told me 3 years ago, Dr. Mucci, you must. I've never seen any teaching like this. It's really eye-opening. This placement with you is an eye-opening experience. And I really want all my colleagues to see and to know Dr. Mucci as well. Please, please, please go on Instagram. And I was like, what is Instagram? What is Instagram, Caitlin? Back then, I wasn't Instagram, Facebook. I wasn't social media person at all.
And now you're doing the challenges, you're doing the dances, you're pointing, you're doing all of this.
It really was a very, very early days. And then I went home and I asked my then 19-year-old daughter, how the youngsters are. What is Instagram? Show me how these things work. My junior doctor told me I must go on Instagram. So that was the beginning. And the driving force, which led me to where I am today on social media, is to make sure as many, if not eventually all patients within the NHS receive the amazing, excellent geriatric care or general medical care the way it should be delivered.
That's beautiful. And we don't often hear about geriatric care, do we? We hear about the common conditions for children, epidemics, whatever's trending at the moment. But I think I have to be honest, from my perspective, before you came and started vocalizing this stuff on a very lay-term basis, I don't think we saw many cases or discussions around geriatric care, maybe in the news, but not on social media.
That is true. Moreover, a lot of people don't even know what is geriatric medicine,
Yes.
what is geriatrics. I see a lot of non-medics approaching me on social media saying things like, I had never heard of geriatric medicine. We heard of cardiologists, neurologists,
Exactly.
rheumatologists. We don't know what is geriatric medicine. But by looking at your posts
Yeah.
and hearing what you are saying, I think I need to get my father to see you.
Yeah.
So people approach me that way, and we not just improving the care, but increasing the awareness about the geriatric medicine. Because Veena, you would know that as we grow older, we accumulate a lot of health conditions, and these poor patients end up going from one specialist to another, looking at the specific organ, none of them talking to each other, and no one seeing them as a whole.
yeah.
They end up with 5 drugs from cardiologists, 3 drugs from the respiratory team, 3 drugs from someone else, and no one is putting it all together. So that's where we come. And I am saddened that in 21st century and with aging population, a lot of people don't even know what is geriatrician.
So for those who don't, tell us, what is geriatrics?
Okay, well, first of all, let's understand that geriatric medicine and gerontology are different things, because people approach to me and say, oh, so you are a gerontologist, we know what it is. It's not the same thing. So gerontology is a science on aging, and the geriatric medicine is actually a part of medicine which studies the diseases which we commonly see in older people and is concerned with prevention and treatment of these diseases, and of course many other things as well. So that's what geriatric medicine is. So you might say, well, if I'm looking after 85-year-old with heart problems, should that person go to a geriatrician or cardiologist? Well, my answer to that is at 85, if you have heart issues, almost certainly you will also have problems with maybe thinking, cognition. If there are heart issues, it's our arterial disease, so
then
kidneys will be
yeah.
affected, the arteries in the legs will be affected, it will affect your mobility, pain in
multi-system
the
thing,
legs.
isn't it?
So you better come to see a geriatrician who will look at everything for you, put a really good plan, and part of that plan might actually be, right, the next step is let's get you to see a cardiologist. Let's get you to have an angiogram. Because people at the moment doing things backwards. They go and see single organ specialists, spend year, 2, 3 years seeing many specialists, leg specialists, heart specialists, lung specialists. Because no one's putting the plan together, they eventually end up seeing me. But sadly, a lot of them by then are too deconditioned or too unwell for me to intervene and sort things out. So we need to reverse that trend. See your geriatrician first. It doesn't mean that we're denying you a specialist care. It's just geriatrician will be in a better position to identify which specialist you need to see
quickly.
quickly.
So it sounds like it's a bird's eye view, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you see the whole thing
it's a beautiful
together.
way of putting it, Veena.
It's a bird's eye view. But on the NHS, let's be realistic. How can a patient get referred to a geriatrician? In my experience as a GP, if someone's poorly, we, like you said, refer to the subspecialties. We don't really refer to a geriatrician. So do they just end up seeing one if they're admitted to hospital?
Veena, that's where my Instagram comes. That's why I am on Instagram, because after I've been a geriatrician for 12 years now, and that's exactly what is happening. So GP colleagues do refer to single organ specialists, and then eventually I receive this beautiful letter saying,
Guilty.
Dear Dr. Mucci, this patient already has been seen by cardiologists and other ologists, and they're not feeling better. I wonder whether you can cast an eye on them. So as I said, we need to reverse that trend. I'm increasing awareness. This is why I am on social media.
Necessary.
So, and why not? If you do have that, especially if they're frail, let's go back to our 85-year-old Brian, who is presenting to you with heart issues. You look at Brian and think, okay, there are so many other things going. He's quite frail, maybe even immobile, maybe even in a nursing home. You instantly think, well, he's probably unlikely to have any surgeries or invasive procedures. Maybe he will if geriatrician optimizes them, makes them feel a bit stronger, better in maintain themselves. So a lot of these patients actually, by being sent into single organ specialties, get denied care because they are too frail.
Yeah.
But if they come to see me, I have means of optimizing them, making them stronger and preparing them for that procedure or surgery or intervention or chemotherapy, radiotherapy. So I believe we are not, we can do better for these patients.
Yeah.
We can do better. So it really is, that's what we're here to
That's
increase that
incredible. And
awareness.
I think to all of our colleagues listening, if you do work in primary care, if you referred your patient to specialties and the answer's not coming and you're hitting a brick wall, geriatrician is the next step forward. And that's amazing because you're right. We end up doing the same thing and we're like, why is it not working? That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Talking of elderly, when does one become elderly? Is there an age cutoff or is it more quality of life or?
When I started training, the figure which was appearing in the books was 65 and above.
Yeah.
Then I was working in various hospitals and they had a figure of 75 and above coming under geriatricians. And as population is aging, that figure went up to 85. But recently, we have come to drop all these numbers.
Okay.
We are now seeing frailty as a primary force which is driving that population under geriatric care.
Exactly, because you could have someone maybe even in their 50s, very frail, if they have conditions like osteoporosis where their bones are not as strong and things, right? And then that could be...
Absolutely. Or in fact, all other conditions as well. If you have a multi-morbid person in their 50s, they will do better by seeing a geriatrician because geriatrician is, in fact, the last specialty which is doing general medicine. You might ask me, well, what is the difference between geriatrician and general medicine? Well, the difference is huge. So yes, we are general medics, but we also have that specific in-depth understanding of the aging physiology and interaction of the aging body with all the diseases which come upon you as you grow older. So we shouldn't mix general medicine with geriatric medicine, but it's to our advantage that we also can do general medicine.
That's incredible. Over the years, would you say your practice has evolved in a specific way or has anything influenced that?
Oh, the practice is evolving every year. Every year we have new services developing. Of course, I started as a geriatrician 12 years ago, and I started as a stroke consultant. That was my first couple of jobs were stroke medicine. Then I developed, set up a dementia ward. And from there, in my fourth or fifth year as a geriatrician, I set up frailty services. So frailty is an evolving and quite a new concept in the NHS. So frailty, and now I'm helping to set up a liaison services for my colleagues. So now the wider NHS population, like healthcare professionals, that is, buying into frailty, understanding the help we can give to them. So right now I'm in the middle of setting up oncogeriatric clinic, the oncogeriatric clinics, surgical liaison clinics, because of course with population aging, our cancer population is aging too. Our surgical patients are getting older too. And rather than just looking at the age and their frailty status and denying those life-saving or life-prolonging treatments, we are saying, well, let's run these clinics together. Let's do this together. Let's see how we can optimize these patients.
It's so exciting, isn't it? Just to see services coming together and someone just taking a step back and thinking, how can I optimize this to improve delivery of care?
Absolutely. I'm working with my best friend, Liz Shah.
I think that makes it even more exciting when your best friend's involved.
Yeah, we play tennis together. Interestingly, we were working in the same hospital and didn't know about each other. And we met on a tennis courts, in the local tennis club. And we hit on and we've been best friends over the last 10 years. And it was Liz approaching me and saying, Elena, I'm getting all these patients in their 80s with breast cancer. I do want to help them. And some of them are so obviously frail. And I don't know whether that's reversible frailty or whether it's established and end-stage frailty. So it's very tricky because you offer the surgery and they might actually deteriorate and die soon after surgery. And then next time that might influence your opinion on seeing the next patient down the line. But that next patient might actually have reversible frailty, you see? And you might deny surgery to the next one.
Based on the case before.
On the case before. And only geriatrician will be able to unpick for you the two patients of the same age with the same level of frailty will have different outcomes because they have different factors leading to their frailty, you see.
Yeah.
And in one of them, those factors are irreversible. In the other one, we might fix things.
Yeah.
So that's where I am now. It's an oncogeriatric surgical liaison
Exciting
clinics.
times.
So we're evolving, and of course education and training, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I'm biased, of course, but I think everyone should be a
No,
geriatrician.
but I think, there's a lot of power in even talking about aging. So when I have patients come and sit and see me, and a lot of times I hear, whatever happens, don't get old. Whatever happens, doctor, don't turn old. And I just, at first I used to just not think much about it. And then as time goes on, everyone always, so many, they could be in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s. They talk a lot about, oh no, I'm just getting old. I'm just getting a lot older. And I used to tell them the age definition. Actually, you're nowhere near 65. You're not elderly. You're absolutely fine. Even if you're 50, it's not too late to start something.
Yeah.
But now in the last year, I've started also telling them, it's a privilege to turn old. It's a privilege to age. Not everybody gets to see their 60s and 70s and 80s. And your body might change and we have this one vessel in this life, but it's a privilege, isn't it?
Yeah. I think social media doesn't help that a little bit because adding to the problem, you see a lot of reversing aging and stop aging. And that's a gerontology is a science of anti-aging.
Yes.
This anti-aging product, that anti-aging product. And I listened to one of the famous actress, Helen Mirren.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I pronounce? Yeah. Helen Mirren.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
So anyway, she was on Lorraine's show on the ITV, and she said, I absolutely hate the words anti-aging. She's in her 70s, aging very graciously, beautiful, busy, having an amazing life.
Yeah.
And I concur. I hate the expression anti-aging.
So do I. I get told in clinic and things, oh, you look really young. Are you old enough? Are you qualified? And at first, it makes you feel good. But then afterwards, you think, the day they stop saying that, would it make me feel a certain way? And if I looked my age, what's wrong with that? Because I am that age,
So this is the second thing I will be fighting, or I am fighting on social media.
You're like, I'm a warrior.
I am a
Can
warrior.
I join this fight?
Oh, please.
Because there's physiological age and there's biological age, right?
That's
Because you
right.
could be in your mid-30s, but if you've not taken care of your health, or if you've heavily smoked, heavily drank, done drugs, all of this, your internal health is very different to someone who, say, has taken care. I'm not talking about things that happen to you, like cancers and things, but things that are in our control, like fitness and diet and lifestyle and stress.
That's right. And everyone will be aging differently. Even with the best diet and exercise regimen and whatever, you might lead an amazing life, but you still might look not as young looking in your 70s as someone who was in fact smoking and drinking. There is a lot to do with biology and our genes, and
so
I
much
think
pressure, isn't
we
there?
should just drop that anti-aging rhetoric and allow people to enjoy aging
And enjoy life.
Enjoy life
Because
with it.
that pressure is just so much. And you just are dealing with external pressures for validation that don't even amount to anything.
But don't you think it's driven by the companies who need to sell their products?
Absolutely. All the industries that are, selling beauty products to cosmetics, all of that, absolutely. But I think the more we talk about it, the same way now plus sizes are normalized.
Yeah.
We're seeing fashion brands having all kinds of sizes being advertised.
Yeah.
I feel like there will be a time when it's harder on women, isn't it? Because as a man, it's sexier to get old. You like the salt and pepper hair. Whereas if a woman rocked that, it would just be quite different. I can't wait for the day where it's normalized for on
Do you know,
both
I'm
accounts.
47
Hey.
and I'm 47 and every birthday I'm thinking this was the best time of my life. The last year was the best year of my life.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more mature and empowered I am, and I'm living my best life.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to 48, 49, 50, and I hope maybe in 30 years' time we will meet here again, Dana, and I will be able to say,
Jason, are you hearing that?
and I will say, look, I'm in my late 70s and I'm living my best
We'll probably
life.
be doing AI at that point. We'll probably be in your homes with cameras. And it's funny, I saw someone being interviewed on the street once. He was in his late 70s and someone asked him, oh, you're 75. What does it feel to be 75? Some young person.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, everything looks the same from the inside out. But clearly what others see in is what's different. It's so true because you're still the same person.
Yes.
And if you didn't have mirrors and if you didn't really see what was going on, you'd still feel like you. But it's what others see that make you feel, oh, this is an old person coming along, or this is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's
an
so
interesting concept. Interesting thing you just said there, what
Yeah.
other people think of you.
Yeah.
But isn't it important to also do what you want? And let's face it, I don't want to be judgmental against people who do go and have various procedures and surgeries and so on and so forth. If that pleases you, if that
Absolutely.
makes you happy, come on, go on. But
Do it,
don't
yeah.
do it for social media. Don't do it to please someone. Just do it for
For
yourself,
you.
for your mental health, for
Yeah.
whatever pleases you in this life. I mean,
Agreed.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm going grey, and I'm not going. I'm saying I'm gonna grey naturally
Yeah.
and see how I look like when
Yeah.
I'm always grey hair. But I want to try different things, and
Yeah.
I might not like it, and I might go and dye my hair, but only for myself, not for someone who is looking from outside.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's so grey and she's so old, and why she's not dyeing her. I don't care.
Yeah, I think there's an empowerment in being comfortable in your own skin. We hear it so often, don't we? And I'm finding that now in my kind of early 30s, really being comfortable with who I am and what I want to do. And I just wonder if my 21-year-old version just knew that, how much freer I'd feel, isn't
Yeah,
it? We
yeah.
all say that.
So we do need, as a society, I think we do need to create that life for the second part of our
Yes.
living, because people in the past, they would retire and 5-10 years later they are dead. Nowadays, people retire and they're still alive 30, 35, 40 years later. I mean, I had a patient who had been in retirement for 40 years already. He never expected that. And of course, he is extremely unhappy. Why? Because he had this really busy life and been all this high powerful person, and then in the retirement he didn't anticipate to live this long, and there isn't much for them going. So I think as a society we are changing that. We have University of Third Age, various classes where people can go and learn a language or musical instrument,
enrich
crafts,
your
arts.
life. You're still living.
We need to invest, pottery classes. We need to invest more into all of that. I mean, you retire, you travel around the world or do whatever, gardening, whatever you wanted to do. But 1 or 2, 3 years later, there has to be a meaning to life. And we can create that meaning. Otherwise, people will just sit at home in front of TV and decondition.
Yeah.
And that is why I think a lot of people are losing out on living in less frail, being more active in those 80s, 90s, because maybe they spend their 70s not moving much. And you don't use it, you lose it with, as an older person. So,
absolutely. On that topic, this may be a sensitive one, but just to touch upon it, in society, we don't really talk much about death, considering it's one of the only certainties in life.
Yes.
What can we do to normalize and accept death as a society? Because it's, when it happens, it's such a big shock, although we all know everyone's going to die at some point.
Yes. Very good question. And I have approached various TV channels and radios offering to talk about it, and I haven't received any invitations, Veena. I think the society is not ready, and because the major TV channels feel that would not please their viewers, they might switch it off. They don't want, it's a catch-22. And I was recently on Lorraine's show myself with Dr. Hillary, and I wanted to cover a hardcore geriatric subject such as end-of-life care and things like that. But
it's tricky, isn't it?
They avoided the subject, and we still covered really good topics such as exercise and things like that. But I'm doing it on my social media, but we need to bring the subject.
As it is a hard topic, don't get me wrong. It's not easy for me to talk about, but it's more... we'd be okay talking about prolonging life, wouldn't we? We'd be talking about living forever and immortality. That wouldn't be a problem. But then...
like anti-aging.
Yes, all of that.
Everyone
but then
talks about.
Coming to terms with how to prepare a family if someone is, in their 90s or 80s, that, things may look different in a couple of years, or how do we prepare someone for end of life?
So in
These are
my
tough
clinical
things.
practice, here's a practical, whoever is listening to us, is a practical tool talk about end-of-life care, death and dying at the time of diagnosis of that life-limiting illness. And that's what I do. Because let's say I diagnose someone with dementia or Parkinson's disease or, in fact, heart failure, any life-limiting illness. And you know, as a healthcare professional, you know the trajectory of that illness. You know where the patient will be in 5-10 years' time. They're really well now. The family is happy. They're in a good place. This is the time to talk about end-of-life care.
It's hard though, isn't it?
It's not though, Veena. That's a misconception we need to break down. It is not. You will be surprised how open the patients are. And they would say, oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Well, let me sort out my will. Let me sort out my power of attorney. Oh, I wanted to go to Disneyland with my grandson. Let me sort that out. You know, if I know that my memory will not be all that good in 3-4 years' time, let me sort things out. You are empowering people.
Yeah.
You are actually empowering people, giving them that information and having that conversation,
choice.
not an hour before they are
Yeah,
wheeled into
absolutely.
intensive care.
Yeah. So I think, in my experience, I think it becomes hard when you're emotionally invested in that person or that family member. And I don't think you can come to terms with there is going to be a definite end and you want to fight it as much as possible, you know. So I think, so I definitely think it's hard if you're the family member to try and the will and things, I agree, it empowers you. But I think, you know, things like where would you want to be in your last few moments or who would you want around you and what would you not want had? I think they're hard conversations, but they're needed. I think they're needed.
They are definitely needed. And as I said, those with life-limiting conditions, these conversations are easier. Of course, you have younger people with a severe illness, oncology. And I lost my dad. He was 55 years old. He died of meningiosarcoma. He was ill for 3 years. And I cared for him. You know, I took unpaid leave. I did a palliative care for him myself as well. So I have been through a death of a very close person. I know what it feels like. And it was an oncological illness. But I sort of try to put myself aside and thinking, what is the best for you? Is it best for you to have all these recurrent hospital admissions and die in hospital? Or when we know you are dying, we know it is happening, whether we keep you at home and let nature to take its course. It's not easy, but it is doable. If only we could bring ourselves to talk about it as a society. But Veena, I think there is another issue with us healthcare professionals, especially in the NHS, time. To have this conversation, you need time, right? And that is why you need to send your patients to geriatric clinic, because I have 1 hour appointments for these patients. I know, right?
You have 1 hour what, per patient?
Per patient. I negotiated with my managers. I said, I'm either doing it properly or I'm not doing it at all.
Stop. Psychiatry has nothing on you then.
So I have 1 hour for the new patient and I have half an hour follow-up and
I'm having feelings of jealousy almost. It's like, how do you get so long when we have like 15 minutes?
But Veena, how much time do we save? Once you've done that first consultation properly, discussed everything, put the documentation in place, it gets easier for everyone else. And the GPs locally are forever thankful for my 3-4 page reports.
Letters.
And the paramedics as well. And, you know, it is working. We just need to spread the word and make everyone else doing the job this way.
No, it's honestly, it's so inspiring to see the energy you have for this particular topic. I'd be really interested to know, were there any points in your childhood growing up that influenced your mindset of who you are today?
Not at all, Veena. I will be honest with
Really?
you. Not at all. My route into medicine is very interesting. I'm coming from a very poor background, and I've seen my parents living a really hard life, 16-hour days, manual workers. Wow. And like every parent from that community, I'm Armenian, and the community, Armenian community, your son is either son or daughter, either doctor, lawyer, or teacher, you know, like, so my mom wanted me to be a doctor. I became rebellious. I was interested in languages, traveling. I was really good in English. I wanted to be a journalist and reporter and travel abroad. And mom said, you are either a doctor or you are going and sponsoring your education yourself. And that was my route into medicine. Yeah, in those days.
Thank you, Auntie.
In those days, we used to listen to our parents, you know. In those days, it's, yes, mom, we will do that. And from day one, I loved it.
Really?
I think it's maybe a personality thing as well, adaptable personality. I absolutely loved it. And then, of course, after I finished my degree, I came to United Kingdom for my postgraduate degree. Back in my country, the average life expectancy is about 60 years. So geriatric medicine is non-existent. I've never heard of it. We never studied, covered it in medical school. So it was here that I was introduced to the concept of geriatric medicine. I loved the specialty. I came across, and what influenced me going into geris is a couple of really influential geriatricians. And one of them was my geriatrician consultant supervisor from Tunbridge Wells Hospital. And it's just unbelievable, and
it's
never regretted
pivotal,
since.
isn't it? When somebody influences you without realizing, and you remember those conversations, you remember that feeling that it evoked in you, and
Dr.
it sticks with you.
Chalapa, I remember now.
Yeah.
My beloved Dr. Chalapa.
And it sticks with you for life, and they become part of your story.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
funny you say that, because Mum wanted me to do medicine, and I rebelled, and I was like, I want to do astrophysics and be an astronaut. And I took her with me to open evenings to see astrophysics courses, so I can fully relate to all of that.
Yeah.
And then my physics teacher sat me down and humbled me and said, "You're really bad at physics.
Oh.
Don't even try."
It didn't help with my daughter, though.
Did it
With
not?
my older daughter, I wanted her to be a doctor, but she is a brilliant mathematician, and she's doing math in Manchester now, so,
incredible. Incredible.
So-
You know, talking about your daughter, so is it the one daughter you have?
I have two.
Yeah.
I have one which I had before I started my training, and the other one at the end of the training. So to all women out there who are about to start the family, it's never late, but also don't wait for anything.
Yeah.
You know, my big daughter, yes, I had her when I was doing my FI1, we'd say now. In the past, we used to call it house officer, and in no way she affected my training. You find a way.
Yeah,
you find a way.
You find a way, isn't
So
it?
I'm now ended up with a 21 and 7-year-old.
Well, babysitter.
Au pairs. I've been
Yes.
relying on au pairs.
Yeah.
You know, we had au pairs from Germany, from Turkey, from Ukraine. You know, I had au pairs from all over the world. And
And when you want to make something work, you make it work, isn't it? So
absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Talking about that, you know, managing home life and all these different services that you do, how do you strike the balance?
Somehow I do, but you mentioned earlier before we started this podcast, is important to have a supportive partner. And I won't hide, it's not all myself. It is not. It's far from. I have an amazing, Michael is my partner, he's a pharmacist, cardiology pharmacist, and he's my rock.
Yeah.
I mean, he's behind the scenes, he's doing most of it.
Because I've seen it. I didn't just say that for effect.
Yeah.
A lot of women that I've met in the last year who are succeeding at what they do, or I don't want to say succeeding, happily succeeding,
Yes.
and who are content and thriving. And you look at their circle and you see who's around them, and majority of the time it's a partner who has their back, who supports them, who wants to see them win, who almost gives them wings, you know, that don't weigh them down with their own expectations. And I've seen it time and time again. So as soon as you said, Michael's the one who does my Instagram and he keeps an eye on things, I was like, you know, you're fine, you're made to be a star, I'm telling you.
But also I need to mention my parents as well, and I think it's particularly relevant to talk about it because we are in the middle of junior doctor strike. And when I was a junior doctor, I wasn't thinking money because my parents, my mom, my dad died by then, but my mom was heavily financing me, supporting me financially, so I didn't have to think about money. I was investing a lot of money into the courses, education. I had a time in Yale University hospitals. I was able just to finance myself and go and spend time in geriatric department in Yale. So I invested, I love medicine so much, I invested heavily into my education, but not everyone has that financial support. I'm very thankful to my mom, who, by the way, to this day, you know, tries to give me money. I said, "Mom, go and take yourself on a cruise." And she's like, "Oh, you don't need me anymore, do you? Oh, you're a big girl, you don't need mommy." So you take money from her to please her. But yes, a lot of people don't have that financial support, and I believe it's so important to recognize that being a doctor doesn't mean that suddenly you become a rich person. And these poor junior doctors, they're at the very beginning of their career with enormous debts, come out and they can't start family, they can't have children, they can't put a deposit on their house, and it's diabolical. We need to address this issue.
So I was an F1 in 2015, and I remember that Christmas was the first time we went on strike, and we hadn't been on strike in how many, 30, 40 years, and I couldn't believe it was happening. And now, how many, 7, 8 years later, we're back in the same position again, and nothing has changed.
Yes.
And I have a lot of respect for you for even saying not everyone may have had that financial backing, because I'm one of them. I didn't have anyone really providing me, the options to go do courses, and there were things I wanted to do, but it just wasn't an option.
Yes.
Whereas now, when I'm able to source that because of whatever I do, it feels like it's almost a duty to help those who may not have as much. So when I even teach dance and things, I offer grace passes for those who may not have financial aid to come and train.
Amazing. And my FY2 actually prompted me to do one of my posts on the Instagram, which went viral. And it was completely unintentional, and she just was talking to me and saying that she has this enormous debt. She was 6 years at university. Her mom is a cleaner on 17,000 a year, and she absolutely can't help her. In fact, she probably mom would have expected her daughter to support her, and she has no means of doing that. I became so saddened. I didn't realize by that time how bad things are. So I was compelled to start shouting about it on social media.
Rightly so, because parents pour everything into their children, and society thinks you become a doctor and now you can maybe buy a yacht or something. It's not true.
There is that misconception that if you went to be trained as a doctor, then you must be from a rich family. And let's face it, that was maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. That was the case. But
or in different countries. America, Canada.
But we fought in this country, we fought so hard for equality, and I'm delighted to see kids from all sorts of backgrounds coming out with medical degrees. But at the same time, we need to recognize that these are not kids whose father is a consultant or whose mom is someone else, a director of some sort. These are kids, many from poor backgrounds.
Absolutely. And I think they'd really appreciate you saying that as well. Amazing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to a bit more of a rapid fire session. Okay, I'm going to ask you questions, not long to think. You tell me the first thing that's on your mind. Are you ready?
Yay.
Okay, your most memorable day at work?
Oh my God. It's a day when a 107-year-old patient on a ward round asked me to find her husband.
Stop! Did you?
She did, yes. She was a social admission, nothing wrong with her. And I was doing a ward round and I said, look, everything is fine. How can I help you? Is there anything else I can do for you? And she said, find me a husband. I immediately clicked her sense of humor and I said, look, I don't have anyone of your age. Can I find you a maybe 90-year-old toy boy? And she said, no, I'm done with toy boys. Find me someone of my age, yes.
You know what, this goes to show the search continues into your hundreds. Favorite part of your job?
Train your doctors.
Okay. If you had an alternative career to choose, what would you pick?
Business.
Have you ever practiced abroad, and if so, where?
Never.
Okay. And the UK is grateful. Okay. Advice to aspiring medics?
Follow your dreams. There are loads of things happening in medicine now which might put you off. Don't. Just go and do it, and the world is open to you. With medical degree, you can do whatever you want. Just get that diploma.
Right there. A movie that you've seen over 10 times?
Oh my God. It will be a Russian movie, and it's called Diamond Hand.
Okay. I'm going to look this up. Good, okay. Your go-to comfort food?
Would be something sweet, I'm afraid. Cakes, yes. New York cheesecake.
Okay. And if you could give one piece of advice to your 15-year-old Elena, what would you say?
Do exactly what you did, Elena. I was very difficult to my mom. I was a very rebellious kid. She never wanted me to leave our country. She wanted me to marry, live across the road, and within the community. And we did have a little bit of falling out with mom over me moving to UK, pursuing my dreams. And it was very, very tough time in my 20s. Very tough time when family didn't speak to me for a year or so. Yes, I did go through that, where the traditional values of the community were completely against my values, what I wanted. So my advice to myself is, well done.
Love it. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And now we have this fun section where I have these little pearls. Okay,
Right.
it's going to have a topic. You get to pick one, and you give us your pearl of wisdom on that topic. Okay, we ready? I hope you can read my writing.
Love.
Okay.
Now, that's interesting one, because I'm in my second relationship, and retrospectively, maybe I shouldn't have been in the first relationship for that long, and I was there for, again, traditional values, let the child to grow up within the family unit, and things like that. I have no regrets, but I know there are a lot of people out there in relationships for the sake of it, for kids, for financial matters or whatever. I didn't. I got out. I found my love, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. It's so important. I'm a transformed person.
Wow. So you heard it here first. Elena says, make that choice if it's not the right thing for you.
Get out.
I think I think we've all been there. I think I've been there where I've stayed too long and I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But thank you. It's been such an honor to have you, and I think we've learned a lot from you. We have. I think I look up to you even way more now. Absolute pleasure.
Thank
We can't
you.
wait to see what you do in the next years.
Thank you.
I'll leave all details of how you can find Dr. Elena below, her social handles, her email, and everyone can get in touch with you and find you.
And don't forget about my masterclass.
Yes.
Of course, that was my most biggest achievement of 2021. In the pandemic, I set up my online course, Masterclass in Practical Geriatrics, which will teach you exactly what to do and how to provide the best world-class geriatric care.
I mean, I'm signing up after this podcast. But amazing. Thank you.
Thank
Elena.
you.